Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Blue Skies. This is a 2 to 5 player hand management area majority aviation game. In the 1970s, the United States government deregulated the airline industry, causing an exponential growth in the industry. So you'll be taking the role of executives of an airline. You will be placing and buying gates throughout the country, buying out the local airlines, creating demand, trying to become the most successful airline. How do you become the most successful airline and win the game? By having the most victory points at the end of the game. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at the components, setup, and how gameplay works in Blue Skies. Now let's take a look at the components. You have the main game board, score track, first player marker, local airline gate markers. In each of the airlines, you have the charter board, score track marker, income track marker, gate markers, demand cards, passenger cubes in red and green, passenger bag, and finally, your rule book. Now let's take a look at the setup. We're going to be setting this up for a 3-player game which takes 8 steps. Step 1, place the main game board in the center of the play area. Step 2, place the score track. Place the score track next to the main game board. Step 3, get player components. Choose an airline and get the corresponding charter board, score track marker, income track marker, and gate markers. Step 4, place player components. Place the score marker on 0 with the 100 side face down. Place the income marker on 0 on your charter board with the 3-point side up. And place your gate markers next to your charter board. Step 5, place the passenger bag and shuffle and place the demand deck. You'll place the passenger cubes inside the passenger bag and then place it next to the main game board. Then you will shuffle the demand cards and place them next to the passenger bag. Step 6, create starting demand and local gates. Draw 5 demand cards and place passengers on those gate locations. When drawing passengers for each demand card, you will draw until a red passenger is drawn. When placing passengers, they will go into the first gate until that gate is full. If more than one gate is owned, then you will split it amongst the gates, adding passengers to the gates left to right. Then you will add a local airline to each gate that you placed a passenger. Once you've placed the local gates, you will draw 3 demand cards per player and add passengers to those gates. This time you will not add local airlines. Step 7, draw demand cards. Each player will draw 3 demand cards. Step 8, determine the first player and place your starting gates. Determine the first player and give them the first player marker. Then in reverse turn order, each player will spend up to 6 to place 2 gates. This can include purchasing a gate or buying out a gate. The cost for each gate is the number located in the open rectangle. The cost to buy out a gate from a local airline is located in the top right of the location. Also in the top right of the location lets you know how many cards are in the demand deck with that location, as well as the regional dominance value. This is the value of each gate in that location at the end of the game toward the dominance of that region. Dominance in a particular region will score you victory points based on being first or second place. This is what is located in the region boxes on the main game board. When playing a 2-player game, you would not score second place. When placing your first 2 gates, if you do not spend 6, you do not get anything. Once you've placed your 2 gates, you would adjust your income based on the number of passengers at your gates. Now let's take a look at the gameplay. A game consists of a number of rounds until either a player reaches 100 points or all gates are placed for an airline. A round. A round consists of 8 phases: buying new gates, playing a demand, drawing demand, score your passengers, check the in-game scoring, check government assistance, add local gates, pass the first player token. Phase 1, buying new gates. In turn order, you will spend up to 6 to buy new gates or buying out local gates. Any amount that is unspent will be added to your victory points. When placing, make sure to adjust your income, and when adding gates, make sure that you are splitting the passengers amongst all the gates. They must be split evenly, and then when uneven, placing left to right. Once everyone is finished buying gates or buying out local gates, we move to phase 2. Play a demand card. In turn order, players will play a demand card and then draw for a passenger. If you do not wish to play a demand card from your hand, you could take the special action. When taking the special action, you would flip over your income marker from the 3-point side to the used side. The special action is drawing for a passenger and placing them on any location, and then discarding any number of your cards. And then you draw back up to 3 cards. Then we move to phase 3. Draw demand. You will draw 1 demand card per player and then draw for a passenger for each of those locations. So since we have 3 players, we're going to draw 3 cards. Then we move to phase 4. Score income. This is where you add your income to your victory points. Your income is the number of passengers you have at your gates. This is also tracked with your income marker. Then we move to phase 5. Check for in-game scoring. You will check to see if an airline scored 100 victory points or if an airline has placed all of their gates. If either have occurred, you would go into the final scoring. If not, you move to phase 6. Check for government assistance. So the first player to reach or pass 30 victory points would cause phase 6 or government assistance. When this occurs, the players who are behind the leader would take the number of victory points they are behind the leader and divide them by 3. Rounding up. Then they will choose that many locations to draw passengers. Each of the players cannot draw for the same location twice. Then all the players would be allowed to discard any number of their demand cards and draw back up to 3. Then we move to phase 7. Add local gates. You will add a local gate to any airport with passengers and no gates. And then you would move to phase 8. Pass the first player token. You'll pass the first player token to the player on your left. Then rounds would continue until the end game is triggered. When that occurs, we would go into the final scoring. Final scoring takes 2 steps. Step 1, you would score regions based on your dominance. The player with the most dominance would gain the first place for that region, which is the bigger number, and the player with the second most would gain second place and the smaller number, unless it is a 2-player game, in which case there is no second place. How to calculate dominance is adding the dominance number per gate at that location. So Sunshine Airlines has 11 dominance in the Pacific. Once you've scored your regions, you would move to step 2 and score for unused special power. If your income marker still has 3 points facing up, you would add 3 points to your victory point total. When you're finished adding to your victory point totals, the player with the most victory points is the most successful airline and wins Blue Skies.